Hello, everybody, and welcome to a little lesson from the trenches with Steve Zuber and me. I am Becky Amble, and I am just going to kill my phone. Sorry about that. And I am just going to get our timer started so we know what we are doing here. And you might wonder, what is going on? What are Steve and I up to? Well, everybody has pretty much heard about the situation with Bud Light. Steve, I can see you moving your hands.
Okay.
And,
Sorry about that.
So I called Steve one day and I said, hey, what do you think is going on? What information did they have? How much research do you think they did? What kind of data do they have? Because Steve and I do a lot of work with businesses in helping them understand what is going on with the customers and get good information before they make decisions and change directions or make some kind of a pivot. So Steve and I started talking about that and decided that, hey, maybe we could share some ideas with people. So Steve, why don't you give us just, like the 30 seconds, 30, 60 seconds. What is it that you do?
Okay, well, what I do is do work in two areas. One is consumer/customer research/insights, trying to help businesses understand their customers and their prospects better so they can grow their business. And that includes understanding the marketplace that they compete in. The other side of it is I help people build brands using some of the same information, but also some kind of world-class processes that help people understand their brands from their customers' point of view.
That is awesome. And sometime maybe we'll dig in a little bit deeper because Steve has phenomenal background. I work with companies primarily in the small to mid-sized market. I've worked with major corporations as well. My goal is to work with companies to help them increase their revenue and profits. And like Steve, I often start with finding out what's going on with the customers and what's going on in the marketplace. My particular area that I work in is business to business and primarily in manufacturing, being high tech, med tech, and service companies. I've worked corporate, I've done startups, I've done new products and new services, I've done turnarounds. So like Steve, we've got a variety of things that we've got in our bag of tricks, and that's what we want to share with you today. And after Steve and I were talking about, gosh, what's going on out there, we started pulling up some research and really trying to dig in and thought we would share some ideas. So Steve's going to give us just some highlights on what happened with Bud Light, not to really say, hey, it's a good idea to get into political things or social things. We're really wondering, what kind of research did they do? What kind of information did they have? What led them to make some different choices? So Steve, why don't you give us a little background?
Right, sure. So, I mean, I'm not going to go into the background of the promotions they did and kind of what got them to this point necessarily, because I think it's been so well publicized. We all know the background. I don't want to rehash that. But what we wondered was, well, what did they know and what didn't they know, and how did they use the information they had? We really don't know. I certainly don't know what information, what data that Anheuser-Busch had, or the parent company had, or the Bud Light brand had on their customers, their market, the industry, et cetera. And we don't know what primary research they've done. I'm guessing that as a major brand in the beverage world, in the consumer package world, that they had a lot of information and that they've done a substantial amount of research, because my background in consumer packaged goods says that's what we do. That's what they did. My question then is, how did they use it? If they did use it, did they understand it? Did they take the information and really turn it into insight about their target consumer, their target market, the industry that they play in, and what might be the potential repercussions from this move that they made recently, or from any move that they made? Market data, research, et cetera, is really good at helping companies reduce the risk that they're taking. Doesn't always give them all the answers. This move that they made recently, it really appeared to be a high risk proposition, and it appeared from their sales data that it indeed was a high risk proposition. So I don't know that they really understood the risk from promoting the brand the way they did. Certainly, some of the results would say that they missed the mark. The marketing VP, I mean, with good intentions, she wanted to, from what we could read, there was wanted to reverse a negative sales trend, and which appeared to me, from what I read, to be more or as much of an industry or a category issue, not necessarily a brand issue. Which I think turned out to be correct. Certainly, there's competition in other categories that would have a dampening effect on the beer industry and maybe in the light beer part of the industry.
Steve,
But
can I just ask
yeah,
you to highlight a
sure.
little bit about what we do know has cost this company?
Well,
Just
we know
because
that,
the
yeah,
risk is high.
right. We know that it cost a marketing vice president, and I believe it was somebody else in her group. It might have been her boss. I'm not sure. Their jobs, at least temporarily. I haven't seen anything about them being reinstated, but I know they were quote unquote suspended or taking time off for a while.
And dollars and cents.
Well, yeah, but that's dollars and cents when it costs somebody their job. Sales
Absolutely.
were down in the early weeks. They were down 24+%, and that decline appeared to be continuing. That was even into early May and continuing throughout the month. Customers, there was a lot of information about customers just boycotting the brand, and bars reporting that they had sales of Bud Light actually stopped. Okay, and they interviewed some celebrity bar owners who were in Nashville specifically, who said, you know what, people just stopped buying Bud Light. They just stopped asking for it, and that was one of our better brands.
Right. And
They
Steve,
also,
we need to move on.
okay, I just want to say two other things. They did offer, in addition to sales were so negative, that they offered to buy back expiring cases of Bud Light from retailers. At the same time, we saw that one of their major competitors in this this segment of the category, Coors Light, their volume was up. So consumers clearly were found an opportunity to switch. It wasn't that difficult for them to do.
Absolutely. And that reminds me just briefly of when Coke came out with a new Coke and people said, no way, you're not messing with my Coke. And I think in both of these cases, companies didn't recognize the emotional connection with the brand. And I'd like to just move on and share a little bit about another company that we've talked about. And this is a company I kind of have some interest in because it's doing such a unique business, and it's Carvana. And they came out with a whole different way of how to sell cars. And we recall in the pandemic, when everything was shut down, people were looking for used cars. They were going like crazy. So people were buying used cars, and Carvana was super busy. Back in 2017, they were under $1 billion in revenue. Then in 2018, they went over $1 billion. 2021, they were at almost $13 billion in revenue. So they really, really took off. However, they had some problems partway through this, and it started to unravel in 2021 when their stock hit an all-time high of $370. And I look at stock prices as part of how you evaluate a company. Their stock in January was down to $6.27. And just now it has actually rebounded a little and gone up to 15 something. So what happened with Carvana? They lost touch with their marketplace. They didn't realize that once people bought their used cars, which they were almost in a feeding frenzy, then the demand started to taper off. They had some issues that they weren't maybe on top of. Now they are doing a better job, but there were customer complaints about the quality of the product. There were mechanical problems on some of the cars and different issues that customers were complaining about. And with social media and reviews, the word gets out. So that was an issue that I believe they have since done a little bit of improvement on. And as well, interest rates started going up. So here's an area where topic we call environmental scanning, they were skipping or they were missing it because that information was all telegraphed at least 3, if not 6 months ahead of interest rates going up. Well, then people said, I'm not going to buy a car. I'm going to wait because maybe rates will come down. Hopefully they'll come down. So they missed the boat on a few different things. They had some other challenges like supply chain issues. They had some issues because their geographic concentration is in certain areas, but they're not as nationally available. So they had some issues too. And this happens a lot with companies where they're really not in touch, maybe as much as they need to, with the customer, the voice of the customer, and sometimes even their internal data. So that's kind of some highlights of Canva. And Steve, I know you were going to share a couple points on another company.
Well, right. The other thing to mention, and I think it's very relevant for the Carvana example, for the Bud Light example, is the existence today, which didn't happen during the Coke fiasco that you talked about, is social media. So things are just out there, and they're out there very quickly. And when things go right, I guess that's a good thing. When things go wrong, it's everybody knows it, and the people's willingness to act on it seems to be almost like instantaneous, which I think is just the reality of today's world.
Yeah.
Another example, and this is an example of somebody not really understanding the marketplace and the technological change that's occurring in the marketplace. And this one, if you think about it, it's pretty obvious because everybody had one of these in their neighborhood, and that was Blockbuster. They were, renting, for short periods of time, basically VHS tapes. Now they did move into DVDs when the market moved that way, but they really didn't understand the technology and the technological changes that were coming in the market or that were happening. They didn't really look long term. Now, as brick and mortar stores, pivoting is not easy, because they've got the real estate, and they just can't get out of that necessarily real easily. But could they have pivoted easily? Maybe not. But could they have developed alternate platforms? For example, this goes right into Netflix, right? Netflix developed that business on a platform of, let's just mail people DVDs and let them mail it back to us when they're done with them. No rewinding, which people found a real pain with the Blockbuster VHSs, and penalizing people if they didn't rewind them. And Netflix said, well, we're just going to mail them to people and let them mail them back at their leisure. That's going to be convenient. And then Netflix kind of saw, well, look at this whole streaming thing is coming. So we've got to develop that platform. And they did, they really were on top of the technological change. I don't know the data now in terms of how many people are buying or getting the Netflix entertainment from the mail or versus streaming, but I'm guessing it's gone highly to streaming. And so the marketplace changes, the technology becomes available, but what's happening is really understanding your consumer, which I don't think they did, which is we want to source our entertainment in the most convenient way possible. And if there's a better way to do it than the way you're doing it now, I'll find somebody to do it for me, or you got to get into that platform. Now, Netflix has got a lot of competition in the streaming world, from Disney Plus to Paramount to Fox Nation to everybody has a streaming platform, it seems like. But they're at least playing in that field. They're participating in that game. And I think that's a big deal.
Steve, as we wrap up here, maybe we can summarize a couple of things. So we know that it's really important for companies to understand their market, the overall market, their customer, and their target market, their target customers. They also need to be careful about making assumptions, as you have pointed out, and that they need to get data. And not only getting the data and the information, but understanding the insights to be gleaned from that. And I know that's an area you are really, really good at. I would like to share with our group here just our contact information. So let me pull that up. For anyone that wants to reach out to us, we would encourage you to reach out. There's our email and our LinkedIn information. Please reach out and let us know anything that we can do for you. And our next show is going to be same time, in 2 weeks, Tuesday, June 27th. We would encourage you to send us any questions or any comments. Is there something you'd like to make sure we address? We have a topic planned, and we are going to talk about 3 key components that a business needs to pay attention to. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you again for being here on our debut show and us having a few little things we had to tweak. And please reach out to us anytime. And I think we're at a wrap, Steve. What do you think?
Yes, sounds good. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.